Hello again. Once again, I am Melissa, the Director of Sustainability from the Pet Sustainability Coalition. I hope you're enjoying day 2 of Impact Unleashed. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something that's a little sensitive, to be honest. We're going to be talking about PSC's journey into diversity, equity, and inclusion in 2020. And we're going to go over our 30 days, 1,000 actions, diversity, equity, and inclusion challenge that we issued earlier this year. Just a reminder, the Pet Sustainability Coalition has a dual function. We work with individual members to help them measure, improve, and celebrate their own individual sustainability performance. But we also work to bring together different companies and different sectors of the pet industry to tackle issues that are way too big for any one company to handle. We have 3 of those strategic initiatives: packaging, protein, and in 2020, we added diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, I want to own that any conversation around social justice or diversity and equity inclusion can be uncomfortable. That's why after my presentation this morning, I'm really excited to talk to 3 different women who participated in our diversity, equity, and inclusion challenge and hear their perspective. What drew them to the challenge? What is their why? But if I'm going to do that with any kind of authenticity, then I need to be able to tell you my why as well. So to do that, I want to introduce you very quickly to 3 people that mean a lot to me. So here are kind of my people. On the first, I want to introduce you to Jenny on the left. Jenny is my lifelong best friend for over 30 years now. She also happens to be a Black woman. And 3 decades of friendship with her has been kind of honestly a bit of a case study in how we get treated differently, sometimes even side by side in totally small, but also sometimes large ways. For example, often Jenny and I will go shopping and I will buzz right through checking out, but inevitably, almost always, she will get asked to show an ID while swiping a credit or debit card, and I never did. She's had employers, colleagues, schoolmates when we were children always harass her about her hair. And Jenny, who works in customer service, actually earlier in career, had a manager tell her that if she wanted to succeed in her career, she was going to need to find a way to sound more white. The next amazing lady that I want to introduce you to is Deanna. Deanna is also one of my closest lifelong friends, and Deanna identifies as queer. She also makes her living working with at-risk LGBTQ youth. Not only has Deanna never, at almost 40 years old, been welcome to bring a partner at any of her extended family holidays or Thanksgiving like we just celebrated here in the US, but the stories of her children are heartbreaking. Children have just dropped off of her radar because they've been kicked out of her house and are now homeless at 12 or 13. Children have experienced deep depression and had bullying in schools and in churches. We've even lost a couple of her kids to suicide at the youngest ages of 12 or 13, just from the harassment they've experienced from being on the LGBTQ spectrum. The last person I want to introduce you to, this handsome fellow on the right, is my partner, Daniel, who's also Mexican. And Daniel struggles with some things that honestly before our relationship really weren't on my radar. For example, if he regularly gets harassed for speaking Spanish in public. He's had the cops called on him and the police called him while he was just walking around our neighborhood where we've lived several years because one of our neighbors thought someone suspicious was there. Something to note, that's never happened if I was walking with him or with our dogs walking on him. And kind of most unfortunately, Daniel is a federal employee here in the United States and has many times over the last several years walked into work meetings where people he thought were friends and trusted colleagues were repeating the words of a popular politician here in the US that all Mexicans were rapists and criminals and we can't wait to build the wall. So owning my own privilege, I am a white, cisgendered, able-bodied woman with lots and lots of privilege. So people ask me, why do I care about social justice and diversity, equity, inclusion? These people that I love and many others and people in our communities and in our states and in our world don't get to live in the same world that I do as my privilege. And that is my motivation for working on these kinds of things. I invite you to think about what's your why. And once again, I'm excited to talk to our ladies on our panel in a few minutes about theirs. So now that I've told you my why, what is this Pet Sustainability Coalition's why? When we revealed this work back in early summer of 2020, Caitlin Dudash, our executive director, gave an amazing talk about her why and why she was leading the Pet Sustainability Coalition in this direction. If you hadn't had a chance to look at that talk, I really strongly recommend you check it out on our YouTube site. Caitlin said that she imagined a vibrant, diverse, thriving pet industry, and that it was going to mean that that would be welcoming to all, working within the pet industry, but also our consumers as well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has a strong business value, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And that's why she believes and is moving the Pet Sustainability Coalition towards actively being an anti-racist organization. And we invite you to be on that journey with us. So I'm going to be sharing in a few minutes the work that we are going to be doing in this area moving forward. But just to take a moment to talk about the things that we've done so far. We are taking this moment to educate ourselves, our staff, and our board on these issues. We're also taking the moment to elevate voices and experts in this area, which is why I was thrilled to hear from the JEDI Collaborative earlier this morning. We're going to be expanding our services and our toolkits, but I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Right now, I'm really excited to tell you about our 30-day DEI challenge that we launched earlier this year. But just so you know, there are actually some numbers behind it. For example, leading consulting and research firm McKinsey recently came out with a study that showed that companies that have racial and ethnic diversity perform in the top quarter versus their national industry average. There's also a study quoted here that shows that having women in leadership has a direct business value. And I've quoted one source of the many, many scientific articles published that show that racial diversity actually leads to increased profit because it brings more voices to the room. We don't all assume and look at things from one point of view, and that has a direct impact on profit and innovation. So let's talk about our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion challenge that we launched earlier this year. Before I can do that, a very quick shout out. Our 30 Days, 1,000 Actions challenge would not have been possible without our partner, WeSpire. WeSpire uses an online platform to inspire employees to create a positive change in themselves, their organizations, and the communities around them. They also work with companies to help measure, evaluate, and decide where to put precious dollars to keep their employees engaged and within the company. So we at PSC want to sincerely thank WeSpire again for your help on this initiative. So if you weren't a part of it, let me give you a little quick rundown on what our challenge was. So PSC's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Challenge was called 30 Days, 1,000 Actions for kind of obvious reasons. It ran for 30 days during the month of September, and we wanted to inspire 1,000 actions towards a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive pet industry. We made the challenge free to anyone. You didn't have to be a PSC member to participate. We did extend the invitation to several other pet industry associations. Some took us up on it, some didn't. We even built materials to help make it easier, whether that was social media templates or talking points to help encourage our colleagues to become involved. The challenge consisted of 6 different modules that you could take actions and educate yourself or take direct action towards. Everything from why diversity matters to how to be actively anti-racist. We acknowledge that many people want to be doing the right thing and want to be involved with these issues, but don't really know to start. So we wanted to meet people wherever they happen to be in all this journey. We also included different modules, for example, Fight for Environmental Justice, that shows the direct impacts on different disadvantaged communities around environmental justice and how different communities bear a disproportionate burden of impacts like climate change. Another module that we included was psychological safety, to make sure that we were all creating the steps that we needed to do within our organizations and within ourselves to make sure that we were okay having these difficult conversations and that we felt safe doing that. Participants were welcome to take as many actions or as few as they wanted. You could pick and choose, do one from different 6 modules. You could do everything in every 6 modules. Halfway through the challenge, we were joined by an amazing champion, Ben & Jerry's. who added a 7th module to the program and joined to kind of cheer us all on and lend some expertise. Rob Milichek, their Social Mission Special Project Director, spoke last year at Impact Unleashed. And if you haven't seen his chat, I strongly suggest you check it out on our YouTube. But he talked about their journey in becoming a brand dedicated to social justice and sustainability. And he cheered on our program participants and then handpicked actions for the 7th module, which was the Ben & Jerry's Social Justice module. On a side note, the first 50 people that completed the module got free ice cream, so that's a pretty good perk. Looking at what these individual modules were, here's an example of what the Why Diversity Matter module looked like. You can see there's different actions that you could take, whether to educate yourself or to make action in your own life and your community. But we didn't ask people to take our words for it. So each individual action had the why behind it. So this is, for example, the research behind the why does diversity matter, look at some business goals. And you can see some of the research that I quoted before. Bringing in industry experts, not taking the Pet Sustainability Coalition's word for it, that these are the best things to do. Here's the research behind it. And then on each individual action, participants were encouraged to start a dialogue. Tell them how they felt about it. Post a picture, tell a story. What did this mean in your own life? This was personally my favorite part of the challenge, to be honest. So how did it go? We aimed for 1,000 actions. Instead, we got 6,358. So we greatly surpassed our goal, and thank you so much to everyone that participated. We had over 49 businesses take action, almost 500 different pet industry professionals. Here I've listed some of the top actions taken. You can see things from having a meaningful conversation about race. Simple things like, are you making sure that you're pronouncing everyone that you work with name correctly? Watch, read, listen to African American voices as they talk about racism. So things, and all of these actions were taken hundreds of times. It was inspiring to just kind of log in every morning and see all of the actions that had been taken the day before. The discussion, as I mentioned, also was robust and by far my favorite part of the challenge. Thousands and thousands of comments were left of people sharing how this experience meant to them, what they learned, what actions that they were taking. For example, did they do some research to go buy from a Black-owned business? Why did diversity matter to them? Did they know how disadvantaged different communities were when it comes to climate change? And thousands of actions and people tagging each other and posting pictures. It became very, very collaborative and by far my favorite part of the challenge. So once again, everyone that participated, thank you so much. So we completed the challenge, but now what? We didn't solve diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice in 30 days through an online challenge. This is going to be an ongoing journey, and the Pet Sustainability Coalition is committed to provide leadership and work with anybody who wants to be on this journey with us. On the immediate term, we will be expanding our toolkit in Q1 of 2021 to add a 7th part dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will be providing some of these resources that are available to you, but working with companies like the JEDI Collaborative to provide you the tools and resources so that you can be on this journey with us. We're also providing implementation support. We've partnered up with the Equity Project here in Denver, Colorado, to provide direct training for you, your colleagues, and your executive leadership if you would like it. And I'm actually very excited because the first one of these workshops will be taking place in January. So I'm excited to let you know how it goes. So I want to thank you for being on the first steps of this journey with us. I know we've got a long way to go to build a just, diverse, equitable, and inclusive pet industry and world for all of us. But we are committed to being on this journey with you, and we hope that you'll join us. So thank you, and I'm really excited for the panel we have coming up in just a few minutes. Good afternoon, and welcome back. I think I can admit it's a little strange to sit in live studio and watch yourself talk about some sensitive issues. That's why I'm really excited to welcome 3 pretty amazing women to come and talk with me this afternoon. Diana Townsend, Lindsay Smith, and Allison Potts were three of our top participants in our DEI challenge. And so I'm thrilled to welcome these ladies here today to talk to me how it went, what were they learned, what was their impression of it. But before I do that, I want us all to take a collective breath and acknowledge this is a challenging subject. From PSC's point of view, we've got some pretty loud voices, honestly shouting us from multiple sides that they don't want us in this inclusion or in having this conversation, excuse me, or that we're not going too far. So I want to sincerely thank these women for their bravery to come in and talk to hundreds of people about their experience. And I want to encourage our audience to have a very lively chat and to start posing questions for these amazing ladies about this challenge. But also remember that we are doing our best to create a safe space here and to be as kind and as generous as possible. So with that, let's meet three of these amazing women. Diana, Lindsay, and Allison. Hello, ladies. It's great to see you. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
So much for joining me. I'd love to give you guys each the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and tell us, how did you come upon PSC's 30 Days, 1,000 Actions Challenge? How did you learn about it? What was kind of your first experience? Diana, do you want to kick us off?
So yeah, I was challenged by an old colleague of mine that now works for Earth Animal. So thank you, Earth Animal, for getting on board with this firsthand. And whenever I was challenged, I just jumped right on board and did lots of research on it. And then I think within the next day, I emailed our CEO and I was like, this is really something we need to be involved in. We recently started our own DEI journey at Instinct this past year. So it was perfect timing for us to get involved and continue our education as a company. And it was just a really great experience. So really appreciate the challenging each other to do it. I know inside of our company, we were also challenging each other. So it was a great experience.
Want to say quick intro and let us know how you learned about PSC's challenge?
Sorry. Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm from Open Farm. I was really excited to join this. All of us at Open Farm are really looking for ways how we could better stand up for injustices and learn a lot more. And this challenge was so exciting to participate in. And I kind of like a challenge as well, and was really looking towards learning and seeing how I can use my privilege is something that we're all pretty lucky to have, and how I can use that to better stand up for injustice and be much more active in the community. So this kind of came at a perfect time, of course, and really learned a lot through it.
Thanks, Lindsay. Allison, Stella and Chewy's kind of jumped into this challenge with both feet. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Allison Potts. I'm the Chief Sales Officer here at Stella & Chewy's, and I'm also the executive sponsor of our Diversity Council. And I believe in leading by example. And so the challenge was actually brought to my attention by one of our Diversity Council members. And the entire Diversity Council decided we're going to go take the challenge. And the feedback was so positive that we challenged the entire company. So I believe we were north of 13,000 points and had over 120 people kind of jump in and do it. And it was a great education. Thank you guys for putting it out there, because I think it was a great source of content, and I enjoyed it personally as well.
All three of you ladies work at companies that really kind of jumped in with both feet and had lots of people participating and challenging each other and posting pictures. I'd love to talk about, was this over the virtual water cooler, as we were talking about? How was the conversation about it? Were people genuinely open? Allison, do you want to tell us how it was working at Stella & Chewy's?
Sorry, I just did the same thing. See there, that's Zoom. I'm personally a lifelong learner, and so I love being challenged by new ways to kind of explore things that perhaps I don't know or I'm not exposed to. And I believe that a diverse and inclusive organization is really a better organization. So there were many challenges that made me kind of pause and think. But for me, the best one was the walk the line exercise, which was really about privilege. And that had a profound impact on me, because I made an assumption as to what I thought would be the result. but I was wrong. And anything that surprises me, as the exercise unfolded, I could only think that I was dying to do this with my own team, and if only to educate others and kind of create awareness. So I just thought that in particular had a profound impact, and probably was behind me driving the rest of the organization to kind of, you use the words jump in, but to just learn more. And we got an amazing feedback kind of across our organization of people who really enjoyed the exercises. I'm also glad to say that I am the profound owner of the free coupons from Ben & Jerry's. So I'm looking forward to actually bringing those to help me through this pandemic that we're in, for certain.
Love that. And I got to be honest, if you've held on to those coupons for this long, that's some self-control I don't have, girls. I appreciate it. I love what you brought up. Diana, was there any particular action or module that you felt particularly resonated with you?
So I know it was a very short video, but the flip it to test it really stuck with me. I use that now in almost everything that I think about, whether it's something I hear from someone. I'm like, okay, if I flip that, would they be saying the same thing? If so, it's fine. If not, that's an issue that needs to be addressed. But I do it with everything. It could be about race, gender, any kind of diversity within like my own family as well, but work, just even at the grocery store. It's really easy to just think about it in your head. Like, if I'm having this thought, if it was someone of the opposite gender, if it was somebody of the opposite race, would it be an issue? And it's just really like almost like a daily thought now.
I love that. Wanna give us your favorite actions?
Yeah, for sure. Mine was pretty similar as well. I found the flip it to test it was very compelling. And within that, as well as like just kind of understanding how many different implicit bias we have. I kind of had already been aware of what implicit bias was, but there was one challenge where it kind of listed like a huge number of them. And it was just really, while it wasn't challenging to complete, because as we said, it's like really easy to flip it. Like if you're looking at sports teams and you're flipping the Cleveland Indians to the Cleveland Caucasians, you're kind of, it's so obvious. But yeah, just kind of recognizing how many like decades of ingrained overgeneralization we see. It's become really easy to call out in the media and everything, but making sure it's like really in my everyday thoughts and interactions with family, friends, as well as at work. It's becoming so routine for me to stop and recognize these stereotypes that I have, even though I feel it's not my personal beliefs, but they just keep coming up, and it's been really compelling to call those out and notice them and really redirect your thought processes and changing that.
That we should probably, you're right, not change the name of the Cleveland sports teams to the Cleveland Caucasians. That might cause a little bit of stir. Well, I'm really, really grateful to you, ladies, and I want to give our audience an opportunity to ask some questions as well. But one last opportunity for me to pick your brains. Where would you like the pet industry to kind of go from here? If you could wave the magic wand, would it be that every company starts having a diversity, equity, and inclusion resource? Is that we as an industry as a whole would start kind of having these conversations more often? Or what would you love to see happen? Lindsay, why don't you kick this one off?
Yeah, for sure. I think we definitely need to be having more of these challenges. I think recognizing it is the first step. I think all of us as a brand has a huge responsibility to use our voices and our platforms to reflect change and progress that we want to see. Our consumers expect it, as they really should. Also, like loving pets it's universal. We all do it. So it's really important for us as companies to, again, use our platforms and our voice to kind of shift from being so focused on, we were previously so focused on pet nutrition and keeping pets happy and healthy, and now it's hard to shift towards humans. But I think it's definitely really important to keep learning and keep continuing into these challenges.
I love that. Let's pass the magic wand to Allison.
I would say, although I don't believe that the pet industry has a unique opportunity, I think it's much broader than that. But the best solution for any company is to make it a priority and to gain the support, certainly, of senior leadership and truly embrace diversity of thought, because I think that enables all companies to, have a better culture and drive our thinking and our expanded growth. But I always think education makes a difference, and interactive education, which is what you provided in this challenge, makes an even bigger difference because people are, more aware, more attuned. They can do it in their own world, but share with others. And I personally really enjoyed the actions. I loved reading what other people thought. It was, a little bit of stalking to watch as people commented, but I like that kind of opinions and views. It grounds me, and I like to peruse those. And I think that just kind of expands our whole thinking and what we bring in totality to the industry for certain.
Is your magic wand already waved, or where do we go from here?
So you mean personally? So at Stella & Chewy's, no, we are on our journey just like everyone else, for certain. We established an in-house diversity council, again, with the support of leadership. And like I mentioned before, I am the executive sponsor. We have a mission and a cadence, to make our own difference in our own workplace. But one example of how this group is already making a difference is they've started a reverse mentoring session where we have all different levels of the organization that are part of the council. They reverse mentor each one of the executive team to kind of share their perspective around culture and positives and concerns in the broader organization. And it gives us kind of an objective view. It allows us to gain insight and take actions and get the support of everyone. I really believe that every company needs to decide their own journey, and decide where they are in their journey and their readiness and acceptance of it. But we certainly at Stella & Chewy's have prioritized diversity and inclusion because we believe it's the right thing to do. But another example is we've also taken a local approach. We partnered with the Milwaukee Urban League, and you talked about, I believe in the video with Melissa, about how you're making it go local in Colorado. I think that is just as important. We developed a new transportation initiative, which will launch in January of 21, and it allows people that are residing outside the city of Milwaukee to have opportunities to access higher paying jobs that are located in kind of the surrounding area where transportation for them is really limited. So there's not one magic wand here for certain. But I do think, taking bits and pieces and snippets and actions makes us all, better and a better environment to work in for certain.
Love that. Yeah, it's a large, complex issue that we're not going to solve tomorrow. But Deanna, yeah. I'll let you take the last pass of the magic wand.
Yeah, so I think I agree with both of the other Allison and Lindsay on your comments of it starts with a discussion. I know at Instinct, we started with a quick discussion about what we wanted as a company and then established a diversity working group to get the ball rolling. We were challenged with 30-day returns. Let's see what's short-term and long-term goals. Then it transitioned into an inclusion group, which is very similar to what Allison's talking about with their diversity council. And just going from there, little things of just eliminating our Good Friday holiday and turning that into a floating holiday so everyone can celebrate on their own accord. Just little things go a long way, and it's that little change that makes a huge difference.
I love that. Well, I want to invite Caitlin and the audience to this conversation. Caitlin, how's our chat box going? Do we have any questions for these brave and amazing ladies we've got here today?
Hi, Melissa. Thanks so much. And again, thank you to all of you for participating. This has been a really incredible conversation. We've got a very active chat room all throughout this, so I'm happy to send over some additional questions. I would like to start today out with a poll, so go ahead if you're in the audience and click on the poll button. The question is just whether or not you participated in the DEI challenge, and I'll read the results of that poll. But before I do that, I wanted to ask a quick question of each of you, which which is how did you encourage others inside of your company to participate? Did you create incentives, or what were kind of the key ways that you encouraged others to join in with your enthusiasm?
Yeah, I'll start. We really started with the direction, and the link came from our diversity council. So we had one person on the diversity council that raised their hand. They wrote kind of a short, hey, here's what we would encourage everybody to do, and these are the type of things that are out there. And the momentum started. And then again, I think it is important to have that executive support. So I went over the top, and being probably a little bit competitive, I put out a challenge there to better yourself and learn more. And away we went. And I mean, I can't stress enough. I enjoyed it. It's what I did with my cup of coffee first thing in the morning. I loved watching the TED Talks. So I think that, that's the feedback that we got broadly across the entire organization, which was great.
Thanks so much. For the rest of you, can you share more about what you also did to encourage participation inside the company, if you created any additional incentives?
Yeah, at Open Farm, we were all really encouraged, and I think we were constantly looking for ways how we could help, like starting like book clubs, watching as many documentaries as we could and stuff. So I think everyone was naturally incentivized to do it. I think we all, again, wanted to learn, but also maybe a little bit competitive. So we wanted to kind of combine those two things. And honestly, everyone just kind of jumped right in and was really just encouraging everyone just through messages such as like Slack or emailing everyone. It was actually pretty organic and natural how we wanted to participate, because it was a conversation we were already having. So this really amplified the conversation to bring up more ways how we could help and diversify ourselves as a company.
Yeah, I'm going to echo right off of that. Same. Our company is very involved already since we started our DEI journey earlier in the year, and bringing this to the discussion table was just an added bonus, and everyone just jumped on board right away. I know whether it was tagging each other on the actual DEI challenge or a friendly trash talking almost on Teams of, well, I haven't seen you on here. What's going on? Oh, I'm doing soul searching. How can we talk? So that, I am a proud member of the LGBT organization, and I had, coworkers reach out to me and ask me questions that maybe they weren't feeling confident asking others. And the same was reciprocated. I had a lot of conversations about race that I hadn't had before. So.
Yeah, thanks so much for adding that in. So just quickly, I wanted to give you some perspective on our audience. And we have about 58% of attendees today did participate in the challenge, where 42% didn't. So it's about a 50-50 here in terms of people who experienced it for themselves. And I just want to echo a lot of what was said, because for me, we asked our team and our staff also to participate. So not only did we say, hey, we want to issue this challenge to the industry and partner with WeSpire on the platform, but we also asked all of our team to actually participate in this. We encouraged our board members to join our team if they weren't joining their own team to participate as well, because there's so much learning and education, and I really feel like that's a great first step. I think for me, I was really nervous about joining this conversation. Because it's, I am so privileged. And I sometimes feel like people are eager to bring you down and to poke holes, and you have to be perfect in order to get involved. And this expectation of perfection, I think, really discourages everyone from being brave and having a conversation that they haven't had before, or just asking an honest question of people who are different than us to understand how they're different, so that it's not just an unspoken hush-hush thing where people aren't willing to just ask and learn. And I think that's, all of you have been so brave to use your voices inside of your company. One of the questions we got from the audience is, talking internally to our teams, and those are familiar people, can be a little bit easier than talking externally as a brand to our consumers. I'm wondering if any of you have insights to share as to how, or if you've discussed as a brand, how you might do that externally with pet parents as well.
Yeah, so if you guys don't mind, I'll take a first stab. I know I've had many a conversation with our marketing department, Insight Instinct, And I know that our senior level leadership has done the same as well. So they've done an excellent job of communicating out, whether it's the company stance on POC or LGBT. We weren't able to do a Pride organization this year because of COVID, but we were still able to get some words out about supporting the LGBT community, supporting POC community. And it's not without its own reservations. I don't think anyone's surprised to hear that you get the occasional comment of, you're in pet food, just keep it going. But I would like to think that that's more of a minority than a majority. So, but yeah, we haven't had any negativity that I'm aware of, just people making questions about like, why now, what's going on? And I think that's just going to continue into 2021. Why now, what's going on? As Kevin said earlier, it's going to become a trend.
Yeah, no, for us, yes, we've had a lot of communication, certainly internally. Externally, I encouraged all of our distributor partners and our key retailers to participate in this challenge. We have something called a retailer advisory board, and we've actually spent a little time with them talking about, what they see in their stores and how they're, kind of communicating with their staff. I agree with you, Diana. It's about having the conversation first. And I think that each organization has to, hey, I'd like to encourage everyone to do it, but you have to really feel like where you are in the journey and where this is a priority, because the worst thing that you can do is say that this is a priority and then not action against it. And that's where we were really careful. We wanted to make sure, hey, if we said that we were going to start affiliate groups, that we were going to start affiliate groups, because we didn't want to let down our own people. I think, when you talk about larger pet parents and that kind of audience, this is a common subject that's happening out in the world right now, certainly, with the overall leadership that we have. And I think lots of companies are kind of taking this as a time to talk to their own employees, whether or not you're in pet or not. And I certainly, with all the years of experience that I have, this is my fourth diversity council that I'm either sitting on, started, or leading. So it is definitely happening in other industries, and that's where we need the combined efforts. I've also spent a lot of time in front of organizations like WE or national leadership of women organizations talking about diversity and, how my experience just as a woman and how I've kind of moved up the ranks or the challenges that I've had overall. And that's all we can do is talk about our own experiences, but it allows you too to understand the struggles that everyone else is experiencing. And they're not too different, right? I just think, again, getting people to really talk about them and talk about how you're going to solution them is the way that's going to get us to a better place.
Yeah, I agree and echo everything that everyone's been saying. Internally, we've been taking a lot of learnings and actions and making sure it's diversity and inclusion is woven into everything from our hiring practices to our business to our culture. But as for externally, again, very similar, but really want to make sure, like with our marketing department and everything, that our practices are really reflective of the world that we want to see, that's full of diversity and inclusion, and one that's truly inclusive and equitable for all our consumers as well as ourselves.
Great. So we do have one more poll for the audience today. So go ahead and click on that poll and get some answers generated in there. The question is, where are you in your journey towards diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I'd like to ask that that question to our panelists as well. But first, I thought I would just share a little bit about where we are in PSC's journey. This is really, for me, and I can't speak for all of my staff, but for me personally, I still feel like I'm very early in my journey. I started with education, our team's reading books like How to Be an Anti-Racist, and really just educating myself about all of the issues related to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, but then also realizing that we need to form this foundation with others in our industry. The Pet Sustainability Coalition alone cannot massively shift diversity, equity, and inclusion without participation of our other trade associations, all of the companies, and all of the individuals in this industry as well. And we have a lot of work to do. Our industry is not very diverse. I cannot tell you, coming together with our board and trying to identify, hey, who are people of color that we can invite to this conversation to take a leadership role. We've seen just recently CEOs with diversity, both gender and race, come into our industry and within our membership groups, and it's been such a celebration to see some of that starting to shift. But I also just want to issue an invitation to the whole industry, including other organizations like ours who feel that our industry would be vibrant and thriving if we had a greater diversity amongst us. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check in on that poll, and let's see what we've got. All right, it looks like the majority of people are gathering information and educating themselves, and I think that's an absolutely great place to start, and then to start thinking about our influence on others. And I think something I'd like to ask of all the panelists is tell us a little bit about the platform itself. So, Melissa talked about how one of her favorite things was the social aspect to it, of feeling like you weren't the only one who was watching TED Talks and kind of in this journey alone, but that yourself, but also your peers and competitors in this space were also posting and, being active. And talk about the platform a little bit, and if you feel like that made a difference in really catalyzing change for our industry.
Yeah, I found it really, I really enjoyed the social aspect as well. I think, again, I'm still very early personally in my learnings and everything for how we can definitely make this woven into my life with my friends, my families, and my customers. But I actually really enjoyed the social aspect. I kind of felt very reserved and shy before, even this challenge has really encouraged me, understanding how asking to pronounce someone's name, it's not rude, and how people really respect it. So I really enjoyed hearing about other people's experiences, and it really kind of brought me out of my shell, as I think a lot of us feel that we don't know where to start. We want to be perfect, but just kind of really understanding and accepting that it is going to be uncomfortable. And this is the first step that we have to take has been really... This challenge has really shown, oh my gosh, it has really put that out for me, that we're all dealing with it and we're all in our early stages for a lot of us. So it was really helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah, I thought the platform was great. I think you provided a place to, kind of view the TED Talks and the exercises to increase awareness and identify biases, and the articles and books about diversity of thought. I downloaded a lot of those, even the children's books that I thought were really interesting. And I have a daughter who's a third grade teacher, and thought that might be an interesting one for her to bring too. So I think those little gifts, like you were talking about, Lindsay, allows you to kind of share with your family and friends, because that's your network. One of the things that really surprised me, I watched one of the TED Talks who had a senior level woman. She was a head of HR. I don't know if you guys remember this challenge, this TED Talk, but she talked about how she was actually harder on women. And I personally have always found myself thought of myself as somebody who is encouraging other women, that you can kind of break through that ceiling. And then I had to kind of sit back and reflect, am I harder on my female colleagues than my male colleagues, both up and down our organization. So I thought that was great, that the platform, kind of got us to stop and think about what, self-evaluate ourselves, put it that way. But the other thing that I really liked is that as I commented, I got so many comments from the broader industry, and so many comments from, what we do every day is be competitors, right? So to watch and view people be encouragement, be a sign of, hey, we're in this together, be a sign of, hey, we're all learning it together. I think it made it a very not uncomfortable conversation. And it allowed us all to kind of encourage each other to, we might, compete every day as we walk into a pet store, but we still are all in the same community of wanting inclusivity. And I think that was a great part of the challenge.
What incredible words there. I think letting go of our competition and realizing the ways we can work together to drive industry-wide improvement. That's what the sustainability movement is all about. So really appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
All right. So we are just wrapping up. We're at time now. So thank you so much to everybody for entering questions into the chat box. I just wanted to add some, I'll follow up with Melissa that this is really just the beginning of our journey. We have planned tools and resources with the expansion of our toolkit. We're now offering diversity, equity, and inclusion training in partnership with a company here in Denver. And so if you're eager to get on this journey yourself, we're happy to connect you with great organizations to help you do that. And someone asked, are we going to do this challenge again? And I will say we are absolutely looking at, in 2021, how, like the success that we had, how do we expand our work on this platform to bring all of our companies together in ways that are really measurable, that are, over the next month, you can just commit to this one thing and we can all start to shift the industry forward through our little micro actions that really add up to big change. So we are absolutely committed to continuing the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion, getting you the tools and resources you need to advance your business and your own person, and providing the growth that we would all like to see for our industry. So thank you to the three of you for joining us and for your courage and bravery to participate and to join us here today with 500 people to talk about it live on stage. Melissa, back to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. And thank you, Allison, Lindsay, and Deanna, for being honest around a difficult conversation. I'm going to invite you all to just take a 15-minute collective deep breath as we kind of change topics and zones. And okay, moving on.